do it live.
There's been a slight misuse of the substance.
This balance is not working.
Would you like to stop? Would you like to stop? Would you like to stop? Would you like to stop?
I'm fine. Everything's fine. You have to
Control yourself! Old, fat, disgusting.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Cinematic Lounge. Hi Maria.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you doing?
Good. All right, so everybody, this is a special edition of the Cinematic Lounge. In that, Maria, we spun the wheel last time and we picked Some Like It Hot,
Yes.
which we haven't watched yet. But we did go to see... Oh.
Told you.
Darn it all. But what we did go to see... I need an intern. We went and saw The Substance.
Yes, we did.
Starring Demi Moore and Margaret Qualley.
Is that her name?
Yes. She was also... The last one I saw her in was Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
Okay.
Anyway, this is the It film right now. Mm-hmm. I'm going to directed by, I'm going to pronounce this woman's name, which I'll butcher. Coralie Fargeat. Coralie Fargeat? And she also wrote it. Mm-hmm. This was a huge hit at the TIFF or Cannes or somewhere. Huge hit.
Yeah, it won Best Screenplay.
Best Screenplay. She also directed, the first movie I saw her do, which I think was her first film, was the film called Revenge, which was out on Shudder about 2 years ago. It's streaming now. That's another good film that she did. She's a horror bent.
Right.
And extreme violence bent. And female centric. Revenge is definitely female centric. Some of the themes that she has in this film definitely were in that one as well, including color palette, including the way watching men eat. Big thing for her. So anyway, let's talk about this film. Why don't you give a little synopsis? We'll talk about the film. Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you. So, right, we have a special drink for this show. There's something in the movie called the... Now
Activator?
I forgot. The Activator. Okay. And you picked it. What's the drink you picked?
So I picked the Midori Sour because that was as close to the color as I could get. And it's an ounce of Midori, an ounce of vodka, half an ounce of lemon juice, half an ounce of lime juice, and then club soda.
Nice.
So,
Pickups because we see the beautiful color, right? Yeah. So that's close to the color of the Activator.
Yeah, as close as I could get.
The way it started, not how it ended, but the way
Correct.
it started. All right. So why don't we're gonna spoil it. We can't talk about this without spoiling. Number one. Number two. I'm just gonna say right out before we start talking about some of the other things. I really love this film. I thought it was gory, very David Cronenberg-esque, a lot of body horror, but an interesting story as well.
Yes.
With two pretty brave actresses, including Demi Moore, who I think will probably get an Oscar nomination for this one, or deservedly should. So anyway, why don't you give the synopsis, and then we'll kind of get into some of the details.
Okay, so Demi Moore is an actress who has found a new niche as she's gotten a little older, and she does exercise videos. Well, exercise show.
She's an Oscar-winning actress,
right? She's an Oscar-winning actress who now does these,
kind of like who?
Jane Fonda, very Jane Fonda-esque with the leg warmers and everything.
Right.
So on her 50th birthday, everybody says happy birthday. At the same time, Dennis Quaid, who's conveniently named Harvey, fires her in essence.
On the nose. Yes.
Yes. So
fires her on her 50th birthday because says you're too old.
You're too old. We need some younger blood. Meanwhile,
we love you. Good luck.
We love you. Good luck. She's driving home from this meeting, looks up to see her billboard being ripped down, gets in a car accident, ends up in the hospital.
Right.
So she's in the hospital. She's getting not a scratch. She's in really good shape. As she leaves, the nurse is inspecting her, says, you'd be a really good candidate. Candidate for what? Slips a, what are those things? Like a thumb drive.
Stick,
yeah, a
USB
USB stick in her pocket. She gets home, looks at it. It's called The Substance. And it promises you it's a better you.
A better you. Younger, better you.
A younger, better you. But still you. But one caveat, you 1 week on and 1 week off. You have to trade off.
Right. This movie is set up with a specific set of rules.
Right.
Based on this substance.
Right.
Rule number 1, like you just said, is you have 7 days. Each of your, whatever this new person,
The newer, better you.
The newer, better you, they're 7 days on, you're 7 days off, and then you flip-flop, supposedly for the rest of your life.
Correct.
Obviously, because we're set up with rules at the very beginning of this film, rules are meant to be broken.
Exactly,
especially
just like
in a horror
Gremlins.
film. Right. So things start to go to pot,
right?
Basically, and okay, go on. So why did things go to pot? What happened?
So she gets a younger version of herself,
Margaret Qualley,
who pretty much walks into her previous life, into Demi Moore's previous life, and gets the job doing the exercise videos, gets the accolades, and all of a sudden she wants to live longer than a week. At the same time, Demi Moore, when she is, present, is feeling less inclined to go out, more inclined to hibernate, less valued as a person than she was even feeling beforehand.
Right. Okay, so the rule specifically, so we find out there's a voice on a phone that you can call who can answer your questions or help if there's help to be needed. There's also a drop-off place where every week, they get the new supplies, because the supplies are based on 7 days as well.
Correct.
Whoever's sleeping is given 7 days of food, which is this liquid food they're all IV'd and stuff. I mean, the movie starts, pretty interesting shot of an egg getting the shot of this substance, and the egg splits and creates 2 identical eggs.
Right.
So they set up immediately what's happening. What they don't tell you is how this body is created.
Correct.
And essentially, what the nurse was doing is he was going down Demi Moore's spine, going, "Oh, this is this is going to be great." Well, it turns out what happens is your spine opens up, your back opens up, and this body plops out. This younger version of you plops out, and it's now a living, breathing human, or whatever, clone or whatever, who then has to sew Demi Moore's back up.
Right.
Like, I don't know how they know all this, but they know all this, so they sew it up, and now she has 7 days to suck juice, the stabilizer, out of Demi Moore's back,
right,
and she gets a shot once a day of the stabilizer to keep her going. Now, in the meantime, these 2 brave actresses are naked through the whole film, practically. And the director, as she did in Revenge, it's it's like male gaze. She's creating the male gaze on these bodies.
Right.
Obviously for a point. There's a point being made. Randy and Dennis Quaid is shot in such extreme angles. He does this whole scene where he's eating crawfish, and it's just it's the most disgusting scene in the film is him eating these crawdaddies close up, because his mouth's all wet and he's just spewing how she's 50, and it just shows that guys can be as old as they want. They're viable till they die, where women are set. And this movie's all about Hollywood standards. And let's talk about. We skipped the first scene. The very first thing you see in this film, after the egg splitting, to explain they don't explain it, they show you, is the walk of the star.
Oh, yeah.
That they build for Elizabeth Sparkle was her name. So they literally, you see this star from the first day and they do this time lapse where it gets cracked and people are walking over it. The last thing is a guy drops his cheeseburger on it and he's scraping it up. That's also one of the most disgusting. The food stuff in here was disgusting. Obviously, it's a representation of what happens to Hollywood actresses. But she takes it to a level, which is where the body horror comes in.
Right.
And you're not a big movie person, but you recognize The Fly, obviously. David Cronenberg's The Fly. There's symbols everywhere in this film symbols and homages to other films.
Right. Like I saw The
80s.
Thing.
The Thing.
The Fly.
Carrie. Basket Case.
I didn't know that one. There's some Eraserhead in there.
There's all these, what's the one we talked about with John Hurt? The Elephant Man.
Yeah.
So she's hitting on a lot of these things. So what happens is, Margaret Qualley decides to steal more time. And what that does is it degenerates parts of Demi. So when Demi Moore wakes up, her arm is now looking like an old lady's arm, like because Margaret has taken 2 or 3 extra days.
Right.
By the end of it, she's taking, because she's so into the life and she's about to do a big New Year's Eve.
Right. It's
party.
a New Year's Eve thing. So she has to do all the promotion and everything for the New Year's Eve.
She doesn't want to miss that.
She doesn't want to miss any of it.
So she steals all the stabilizer out of Demi Moore's body.
Right.
And turns her into a literal old hag, crazy. So this is where the movie gets nuts.
Right.
When all this stuff starts happening. But in the meantime, also, Demi Moore bumps into an old guy at a diner who, it turns out, was the older version of the young guy that set her up in the first place. Mm-hmm. And he's telling her how lonely he is because nobody needs him anymore. And this younger version of himself is out in the world. And it shows the corruption of what Hollywood and what this does to actresses and actors too, for that matter, and how people just throw women away when they don't look, the beauty standards aren't right. They just toss her away. Obviously, this is what the director is going for. Huge hit. The thing is getting rave reviews, and rightfully so, because it is batshit crazy. By the end of it, that third act, I mean, we could give it away. She turns into a giant. Ultimately, what ends up happening is Margaret Qualley tries to take the last bit of whatever's left of, okay, so when they do the activator, once they give themselves a shot, they're supposed to throw it away. Well, she didn't. Demi Moore didn't. So Margaret Qualley finds that, gives her last little shot, and then turns them into this giant.
Well, yeah. So yes, but what has happened is that there's no more stabilizer.
Right.
So Margaret Qualley has no
yeah.
choice
Right.
but to reactivate and hopefully become a newer, better version of herself.
Right, because there's scenes of Margaret Qualley ready for this New Year's Eve thing where her teeth are falling out of her head,
Right.
and she's starting to degenerate.
Right.
So she runs back to the apartment to do one last thing to see if she can save it all, and then turns them into this monster, which has all the bits and pieces of both of those
Right.
people, including this frozen scream face
in the back. It's got Demi Moore's
Moore on
face
her
in the back.
right?
Yeah.
And this monster goes to the 4th of July thing with a mask. New Year's Eve with Demi Moore's. There's also in her apartment, there was that giant poster of Demi Moore in the aerobic suit. So the monster cut that out. She cut it out. It's her and Margaret. Put it on her face and goes to this New Year's Eve thing. And then all hell breaks. That's where you're talking about Carrie. That's where the blood, just blood and blood and blood. And it's kind of disgusting. It's insane.
Right.
And it's insanely great. But you got Maria brought up a little interesting wrinkle that I have not seen anybody talk about in any review I've seen of this film. Why don't you explain what you walked away when you walked out of that film?
Well, I liked the movie. I really did, and I enjoyed it. I just had one real problem with it that I haven't been able to reconcile. I've been looking everywhere. So Demi Moore goes and she does the whole activator, the younger version, Sue, comes out, lives the life for a week, whatever. She comes back. And as the more Sue lives, the less Demi is Demi. Like, or Elizabeth is her name in there, Elizabeth Sparkle. Like, she's losing her, sparkle, per
she's
se.
Becoming old. And
so when she has that one time where, Sue has stayed way longer than she should, and she sees she's getting older, she makes a phone call. Demi Moore makes a phone call and says, I want to end it. And they're like, do you want to terminate? And then she ultimately decides not to terminate.
No, what that would do, that would terminate her second. Margaret Qualley would terminate that, but she doesn't go back. She can't go back to her younger, her 50-year-old version.
She can't go back to her 50-year-old version.
Grotesque stuff starts happening. She's stuck
but
with
at this point, she just has a messed up finger.
Right.
But she can't go back to. She can't go back, and she won't go back to Sue either. She's where she is, so she ultimately decides not to, and then the whole thing continues. My question was, I didn't see where Demi Moore, throughout any of it, was getting any gratification when Elizabeth is out, when Sue is out being Sue. Like, she's not part of Sue.
Yeah, it's her. So in other words, she's not. What happens when they're asleep is
right.
It's only subconscious at that point.
Right.
Now things are happening but it's not conscious things that are happening.
Right.
So she's not living through.
She's not living through
she's
there.
not in her body, basically. She's
Right.
a separate. Sue is a separate entity.
And it's not like it's different than the picture from picture of Dorian Gray because Elizabeth is not living the life. Like
Right.
Dorian Gray's out there living the life. The picture's aging in the background, but she's not living the life. She's actually holed up in a room, like is away from everything.
Asleep on a basement floor.
They
Right.
just sit her on the floor. They
Right.
don't even
Naked.
give her a cot.
Naked. Nothing.
Yeah, they're naked on the floor, and we'll come get you later. So my thing was what I don't understand is after the first week, and there was no gratification. Why continue if you can end it?
Right.
Why would Elizabeth Sparkle keep doing this?
Yeah, it's the one when you brought that up. It's sort of the one logical disconnect in the film because you see all the rules. You
Right.
realize that she's not living through Margaret Qualley's eyes
Right.
because all she sees when she wakes up is what happened during the week she was asleep. She did figure out, though, that she could affect things in... Again, we don't know if it's in the real world. So there's a scene where Margaret Qualley is doing her aerobics thing,
Oh, yeah.
and some weird ball
Yeah.
falls out of her bum, sticks
Yeah.
out of her bum, and everybody freaks out. Like, what's going on? Something
Right.
weird. Let's play back that tape. Let's see what that is. She runs to the dressing room, and what she ends up doing is pulling out a drumstick,
Yeah.
a turkey drumstick out of her belly, reaches in, which is where, like, Videodrome. Okay, now I'm
Yeah.
saying Videodrome. Pulls this giant turkey leg out of her belly button.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, that happened because Demi Moore realized on her week she would eat like a pig.
Yeah.
And it would manifest this thing in Sue. She's punishing
Yeah.
Sue for all the stuff Sue did while she was. So there's a connection there, but it's only in the sense of like if I left this house every other week
Right.
and you were having parties while I was away, I could see what you did.
Right.
And I may do stuff when you're not here but
Right.
I'm not here with you at the party.
Right.
So you're right. What is she getting out of this younger version of herself? How does that, because it's not even her name. It's a
Right.
different person.
That's what I
So
meant.
How does she benefit from
When they
that?
were asking the name, I was like, okay, let's see what name she gives. Is she going to give Elizabeth? And no, she was Sue. Okay,
Right.
so now you got a different name. Okay, so now you are a different person. You're a better version of yourself, but they don't share a brain. So they're not sharing any kind of experience. They're two separate entities.
Until the last scene where they become the giant monster together.
Where
That's
they
the only time they're together.
Where they merge together,
Merge
and that's
together.
because she made too many copies from the original.
Well, they can't use the
You can't use the
activator.
activator.
Yeah, you can't use the activator more than once, and she broke.
There's the activator and the
and it's the other
stabilizer.
thing about like a kid. Demi Moore's 50 years old, been through it all. She's she's been around. The kid is just trying to live a life. She's
Right.
having sex with dudes a couple days after she's supposed to be doing that, and subconsciously Demi Moore is being affected by it, but she's not really living through it. So that once you did that,
Mm-hmm.
as much as I still love the film and I do, it's the one thing that nobody's asking. Like, what did Demi Moore get out of this deal? Now, did she not know it when she went in?
Right.
Right. So once she gets the rules, does she say, do I get to see through? Am I going to feel what maybe she is? I guess subconsciously she's feeling what she's feeling.
But she's like, when she wakes up and she sees the big billboard, it's frustrating because it's not her. It's her, but it's not her.
Right. Well, it's the young, right. Okay.
But it's
but
not,
we know it's her. Nobody else knows it's
Right.
her.
That's what I mean.
Out in the
Nobody
real
else
world,
knows it
nobody
her.
knows.
Nobody's like,
nobody
oh my
even
God,
says,
what
oh my
did you
God,
do?
you look just like.
Yeah.
Nobody even does that.
Right. So she's getting to
She's
me
also
nothing.
doing a different style of aerobics too.
Yeah. She does
Pump
the
it
more
up
modern.
versus
Yeah.
whatever. Just be happy or whatever Demi
Yeah.
Moore says in her
Well,
thing.
Demi Moore did like the Jane Fonda,
Right.
2 more,
Right.
3 more. And then, Sue is doing the more modern, we got, twerking happening and all kinds of other things.
Lots of lingering shots on female body parts,
Mm-hmm.
which thankfully I enjoyed. And I turn to you and I go, if a male directed this, how would you feel about what you were seeing?
Right. And
I'm
I said,
asking you right now.
I didn't know a woman did.
Oh.
So like I said then, it doesn't matter to me. That's the way my body is viewed. That's the way the camera was reflecting society.
True.
So I didn't.
But you're saying if you don't feel
And wait, because the movie is about female bodies and how they
Female
age
gaze,
and
yeah.
how they're
Yeah.
not appreciated.
Right.
And once you reach a certain age, it's
Well,
not
they're
wanted
appreciated
anymore.
until a certain age.
Correct.
Right.
So to me, the angles made sense. Whether it was a man or a woman doing it, I didn't know and I didn't care because it made sense. That's what this was all about. It was about Demi Moore losing her body and then, Sue getting
It's
the
amazing.
old body back.
The actresses. So there's a scene from behind of Demi Moore, and you can see that she's definitely gravity has taken hold of body parts on her.
Yeah.
Right. She still looks great.
Still looks
At 60,
fabulous.
she's
Yeah.
60 years old. Okay. I'm not complaining about what I was seeing, but then they introduced Margaret Qualley, and it's the perfect ass
Right.
and just like and it's like, okay, so that and I liked your analogy too. The body horror is also representing what women do to themselves to look better.
Right,
The
and that's-
Botox and the plastic surgery and the everything you guys have to go through to keep those standards up.
Right.
Right or wrong, that's what's going on. But again, I can't get it out of my head what you brought up, which is the disconnect. And again, it's a logic thing, and you're supposed to suspend disbelief when you see this stuff, and it's
Right.
such a bold film what she did. I mean,
Right.
she out Cronenberg. I mean,
Right.
she really went for it. And I guess I shouldn't be going, what did Demi Moore get out of it in the first place anyway?
Right.
It was only going to lead to heartache
Right.
or pain, which is what it ended up.
Which is, the whole thing is that is a woman's life. Like, that is what it is that we take women and at a certain age, they end up being put in these rooms and away from society because they no longer hold
Well, they
their
should,
beauty
as they
to
get
standards.
older, take care of your kids, right?
And that's what Van says, yeah.
Go take care of your children.
You know,
and
take
stuff.
care of your
Yeah,
grandchildren
I think
and everything.
That's a good thing, right? Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But so I get it that was I get all of it, I think, but I don't understand.
Well, the message, like I keep doing this, the messages were right on the nose.
Right.
Starting with the Hollywood star.
Right.
And how'd the movie end? And I predicted it. I said,
where she got reabsorbed back into her star.
I said, as soon as, okay, so the way the movie ends is this monster degenerates, and all that's left is Demi Moore's face.
Right.
Crawling along the sidewalk.
Right.
And I said to Maria, oh, she's crawling back to her star. And that's how the movie ends. She gets on the star and big smile as she just disintegrates to nothing.
Right.
And it just shows what Elizabeth Sparkle was trying to get back to, was the accolades of everybody saying how great you are. You're so beautiful. You're so beautiful. And she was never going to get there with this thing. And
the part that I found sad, just a sad commentary, was that Elizabeth Sparkle had she had her Academy Award. She had her star on the, Walk of Fame or whatever. And she had reinvented herself as this aerobics instructor, this aerobics thing. But she seemed content with that. Like, she didn't seem like the character.
No,
Elizabeth
she was very
Sparkle,
happy after that
she
first-
seemed
that first
like she
scene.
didn't seem like a disconnected
No.
actress who's like, I want to get back to the woman. Like, she's
No,
like,
she
this
was-
is my career
Yeah,
now.
yeah.
And
Until she had the conversation.
and then she had the conversation, she got fired, and then she was no longer content. Now, I'm sure she had, her moments or whatever, but I don't know.
Well, we didn't see those. We didn't see any content moments. We saw the billboard getting torn down, and she immediately has the car accident. And then this whole journey started.
Right.
So, yeah, she got nothing. I mean, yes, she was content at the beginning of this film.
At the very beginning, when she comes out and she finishes her
Yeah.
scene, she's like, "This is my
Okay,
job." And
everybody,
they
see
say,
you
"See you
tomorrow."
tomorrow."
Yeah.
Off she goes, and then they say "Happy
then Dennis
birthday," and
Quaid
then
does
it,
his thing, yeah.
then the downward spiral starts. Oh, birthday, 50th birthday.
Right. I mean, Demi Moore was the perfect vehicle for this.
She was
film
great.
because of the way the way we were introduced to her in the 90s.
Right.
And how bold and brave. I mean, she's brave, and Qualley was too. I mean, these guys. There's a scene where they're flopping on each other, naked, the two of them, and it's not erotic, sexual stuff.
No.
It's just they have to do this hose
Right.
thing, so they switch, and their two bodies are just flopping all over each other. It's
They end
just
up falling on each.
insane.
Yeah,
Now they must have. they had to really have trusted this director. They gave it all, and the director did as well. And she protected them. She really did a great job with what she was doing with these guys.
Right.
Now, the men, on the other hand, and this is heard like in Revenge, all the dudes in Revenge are just despicable. Mm-hmm. And that movie also is about the female gaze and how men look at them and what happens. She did, in that scene with Dennis Quaid chewing on the Dennis Quaid,
the crawfish,
chewing on the crawfish. She does that exact same scene in Revenge with a guy eating an apple or something. Same thing where you're hearing and it's just disgusting stuff coming down his mouth, and obviously a statement's being made there. And that's a movie you should check out. Revenge is it's insane. It's insane, and it's very gooey as well. It's very visceral. A lot of blood, way more blood in this one. That end scene in the theater is just absolutely nuts.
Yeah.
So does it so that thought you had that you also put in my head, thank you very much, did it ruin the film for you, or
it didn't ruin the film for me. I did like it. I mean, it sounds weird to say you like a movie like this, but I did.
No, I mean, there's nothing wrong with saying.
I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the Dennis Quaid character.
He was funny. He was funny,
and I liked that she made him a sleazeball without having him be too sleazy. Like he wasn't.
Interesting you say that. He never hit on Margaret.
That's
Qualley.
what I mean. He never actually touched them inappropriately.
No, he's looking around. He's leering at women.
He's
and
loving
stuff.
what he's seen.
But he never.
So I appreciated that about his character because I think we all know men who are just sleazeballs like that. That type of character, and I guess I tend to think of people who run those types of shows, if they're male, to be more.
Well, she has this scene where people are auditioning for a role. And these two guys who were doing the audition say, "Oh, that woman's nose. It'd be better just have two breasts on her face so that we can hide the nose." And what happens at the end? The monster.
Yeah, that's right. The monster has extra.
That's what I mean. It's spot on everywhere.
And like when Dennis Quaid's like, "I want to introduce you to the people who are going to be doing the New Year's Eve show," and they're all like these old white men, like just really
all
old,
gray-haired white dudes, just
like,
smiling
ooh,
like, "Ooh, she's
yeah,"
so right. As the dancers are going by, they're all watching the dancers.
And again, they're just loving their life as it is, but she didn't. It would have turned me off, I think, if she would have gone further with him.
Because we've watched Showgirls, too. And you made a comment about Showgirls. There's a theme in Showgirls about women going after other women to get what they want, too. Or something you mentioned about Supreme Court. I don't know. There's something you were talking about where women are fighting each other for position.
Right. So the idea is that because we've been in a patriarchal society forever and a day, and we're used to men holding all the power, most people will think, well, you should be happy. There's one woman. I have one female comic in my, repertoire, my comedy night. I have one woman on the Supreme Court. And like Ruth Bader Ginsburg said, I'll only be happy when there's 9. There was 9 men forever. And it's like, it's been a shift in people's thought pattern because women used to fight each other for that one female position where they're like, wait, we can all be there. And so the idea of women empowering and helping each other and building each other up rather than fighting for that one position.
Yeah.
But this movie was playing back on the idea that there's one primo gorgeous woman, and when she starts to decline, then the new one comes in.
Replaced.
Yeah.
I mean, this is an extended. It's a pretty long film, almost too long. It goes on a little bit.
There were parts I thought were too long.
Yeah. But again, I give the director all the rope she wants because it's an amazing film, amazing director. But it's like a Twilight Zone. You know it's going to go bad. It's like the monkey paw thing, and anytime you get a wish, the wish, it's gonna.
That was it though. That's the crux of it all. What was Demi Moore's wish?
I see. now that you
What is like
See-
the monkey's paw? Everybody, I want my son to be back alive. I know what the wish is. I don't know what did she expect to get out of
I don't know
having
what she
somebody
thought.
else walk her life?
Yeah, I mean, because it was never stated that you were going to live in that person's body.
Right.
Your consciousness is going to go. There were two individual
They were
people,
different.
which is why they were fighting.
Right.
And they had this
Which is-
giant fight in that apartment. By the way, I want to talk about some logistics too. This giant apartment in LA, up in the hills somewhere. I don't know where. Beautiful apartment. Obviously, not a real apartment. But as this Margaret Qualley's out in the world, suddenly a billboard shows up. I kept saying to you, how tall is that billboard?
I know, 'cause there's-
How can that billboard be sticking? And this is what I'm wondering.
It's like a
is the whole
penthouse.
thing a freaking dream? Is it something like once Demi Moore takes the substance, that she's now in a place that isn't real? Because everything got weirdly heightened at that point. She's using wide-angle lenses to make Dennis Quaid look weird, and people are doing weird stuff. And there's a billboard, 150 feet in the air, pointing right at her apartment. I mean, that's so. I know you can't do that. You can't do that. You have to suspend disbelief when you're watching this
Right.
kind of film because you'd go crazy. But your logical thinking about what did Demi Moore get out of it is legit. I think it's legit.
Yeah. So
Again, it doesn't take away from the movie.
It-
I'll see this movie again, but it does make me go,
it frustrates me a little because I wanted, and maybe that's the whole thing is like, maybe that's the whole point of it is that you get nothing. So all these things that people do to enhance their body or to make their bodies or to if you're in Hollywood, to prolong your career by your looks, in the end, you get nothing from it. You end up with nothing. But I don't know. It was a point that frustrated me, especially when I realized she could have terminated.
but she didn't. At that point, she still had the funky finger.
Right. But
Then she made the decision right then and there to go, you know what? I think I want to keep going.
Right, because
She knew.
but she wanted to keep going because she didn't want to get worse. She knew her hand was gross,
Right.
and so she didn't want to be out in public with that gross hand, and she
Okay.
didn't want it to get worse. So her thing was, if I just keep doing this, I'm not gonna age more.
Oh, if the other one stuck by the rules.
Right, but the other one wasn't going to stick by the rules. We
That's
all
the
knew
thing.
that.
Think about that. You're putting yourself to sleep for 7 days, trusting that this other person is going to do what they're supposed to do.
Right.
And obviously, that didn't go right.
Right. That didn't go well at all.
Because she's a spoiled little kid.
Right,
Who
because she's
wanted everything.
immature.
Right. Oh, my God. Yeah.
Because she lacks maturity,
Yeah. So, all right. Well,
and she's getting all these accolades.
but you like the film.
Yeah, I did.
Would you recommend
like
it?
the film. Yeah, I have recommended it to
Oh,
people.
good.
I did like it, and I do like it, and I would recommend it to people.
Right.
I just think there needed to be a bigger reward or a reward of some sort to Demi Moore
Well,
doing it.
I think this whole movie was designed to give Demi Moore. I mean, those scenes where she is the aged out, look like a witch, like some of those witches, the movies they're talking about. There was just Demi Moore act. She was great,
Demi
and she
Moore was
never,
great.
you know, she was never gone. She was always in whatever.
Right.
You just saw Demi Moore. I mean,
Right.
I'm not saying that as a bad thing. I'm saying that
Right.
as a good thing. She was.
Well, there was like
not
the-
lost in all the makeup that they
Well,
gave
like,
her.
and the whole
all,
scene
yeah, no
where-
CGI, by the way.
where she's in the bathroom naked, just sort of examining her body
Yeah.
and how it's changed. I mean, that was a long time, and she stood there.
That's what I mean.
Stark
yeah.
naked
It
doing
lingered
it.
on her.
And then the scene where she's getting ready for the date, and everybody's kind of rooting for her. They're like, "Oh, you're gonna start living a 50-year-old life. You are."
Right.
And then she just can't bring herself to leave the apartment.
Right. Devastating scene with that makeup.
That was.
Yeah. That poor guy's waiting for her too.
Yeah, and he would have been
Yeah.
tickled to
Right.
spend time
Thought
with
she
her.
was you're gorgeous.
Yeah.
You're gorgeous. Everything she needed, and she
Yeah.
chose. Again, that just and that. Again, what's that? What's the symbolism of that beautiful robe with the dragon on the back?
I love that robe.
What was the purpose of that?
I don't know. I mean,
Was that empowering?
it was just
it
like
empowering? Because they both wore it, right?
they both were, but the younger one was the one who originated it, because Demi Moore had a different robe she wore,
Well, that yellow jacket that she wore,
and then she had the
just
yellow
like-
jacket.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, the colors and the palette
Yeah.
and the cinematography. Revenge ended this. Revenge, there's so much blood, so much red blood on white floors in Revenge that it's just like this late. And people slipping in blood, like trying to run and slipping in blood. I mean, it's just one of her staples. She's great. She's got a long run ahead of her, I think. I think she's... All right, so out of 5, what were you going to say?
No, nothing.
Oh, 0 out of 5. What do you rate this thing?
You know, I'm gonna give it a 4 because I like it. I liked it. I really, though, that whole thing has left. Like, I still am perseverating on.
It is an interesting question. And I have watched a ton of reviews of this film to see if anybody, because I knew we were going to talk about it.
Right.
I think the double toasted guys said, I don't quite understand what Demi Moore was getting out of. They actually said they should have cut a deal together.
Yeah.
And say, hey, you go out in the world, make a ton of money. When I'm awake, I'll spend the money and I'll also invest the money, and we'll be able to work together.
But the other point is they never they would have had to communicate through notes only because they were never awake at the same time.
So
they couldn't talk to each other.
And it was too late by that point.
And then again, it's like, okay, so what did Demi Moore get from it?
She got nothing. She turned into a hag.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what she turned into. It killed her.
Yeah.
But again, nobody questioned. I mean, that's the other thing. Nobody questioned going to this weird place to get this weird bucket of stuff.
Yeah.
Beautifully wrapped, and that packaging was whoever set designed the equipment they used to do all this stuff was talented. That's some good stuff going on there. But yeah, she never questioned it. She just started putting, she was so desperate to be, that never questioned, what is this really going to happen? And as a viewer, we're not either. We're just riding along with her.
Yeah.
Till you walk out and you go, I'm wondering what. Then I go, oh, come on, what? Why'd you do that? I'm going to give it a 4.5.
Are you?
Yes. Because I did see... Because it's just crazy. The movie's batshit nuts.
It is, but
in a good way, in a great way.
That stuck in my craw. And I am a pragmatic person.
You're very pragmatic.
So I tend to overthink a lot of things because I'm like, well, that just doesn't make sense. But the other
you're
thing
not wrong on it. You're not wrong mostly.
Some of the scenes went on too long for me too.
Well,
it went from being kind of cool to come on, a right already. Like I'm done with this fight.
Like how many teeth does she have to pull out to make that point? One would be enough. I don't need to see 3. Right?
And then, the fight scene.
Oh,
we got the point.
I know.
I know.
You mean the kicking?
The kicking and the yeah.
Yeah. And all the dudes that are banging her are French guys. The banging the young girl, they're all her French, I did recognize one of the old guys in Dennis Quaid's office was the guy from Revenge.
Oh, really?
Who was the bastard in Revenge. I said, I said to you, that's the guy from Revenge.
And, she filmed it in France.
Did she?
Yeah. It's not filmed in L.A.
On sets. She said it was all
on sets in France.
Sets. Amazing. Well, anyway, I say 4.5. You say 4. That's 4? What's that average? 4 1/4?
4.25.
4.25. 4 1/4. Yeah. So, all right. So next show you and I we'll definitely do Some Like It Hot.
Yes, we will.
There's no body horror in that one, except they dress like women, which could be a problem now.
It could be a problem.
But it's supposed to be really good. I've actually never seen it all the way through.
Oh, really?
Just so you know. So I'm going to watch it, not for the first time. I know enough about it, but I never sat and watched the whole thing. So this will be fun. Okay. But this was good, and we should do this every now and again. We go see these movies. We just did Strange Darling, and this one. This is quite a ride.
Yes.
All right. Well, cheers.
Okay.
Put that activator up.